Hi, and welcome to the eLogger software demonstration. eLogger is a versatile system designed to assist businesses in providing shift-to-shift communication as well as to replace manual logbooks. While that is its primary purpose, its flexibility allows companies to do much more, as the following demonstration will show. eLogger's flexibility allows it to be used in many industries, some of which are shown on this screen. For a full list, please check out our website at www.elogger.com. Now let's talk a little bit about eLogger's technical requirements. From a high level, eLogger's database is a SQL server, and its web server is IIS. Users will access eLogger through a web browser. If you would like more information on the complete technical requirements, you can check out our website and click on the Technical Requirements tab. Now let's move on to the demonstration. When users first enter eLogger, they will notice some tabs across the top of the screen. These tabs are universal for all users, with the exception of the last tab labeled System Administration. This is where designated users would go in to configure eLogger's system settings. Now we're going to go on and make entries into the logbook. To do so, click on Add New Entry. You will notice that there are several fields that will show up on this screen. Some are blue and some are black. Blue fields indicate mandatory fields and must be filled out in order to continue. Some of these values may also be defaulted based on your system configuration. To dive more into what these fields actually do, we will start with pre-filled entries. Pre-filled entries are log entries that can be customized with default values the system administrators define. If you fill out a similar entry over and over again and do not want the users to have to recreate it each time, pre-filled entry can be utilized. Next is the date field. It is going to default to the current date and time. It can be updated to reflect the time that an event occurred. To change the date and time, the user is simply type over the top of what is already there, or use the calendar and clock pickers that are provided to the right of the field and select new values. The shift and crew are lists that the administrator will define for you. The shift may say something like days and nights, or 1, 2, or 3. What the shift does is a couple of different things. The first is that it can be used for searching. The shift is used to control the user's ability to edit, but we'll get more into that later. The crew identifies a group of people and will typically say something like A, B, C, D, or E. But I've also seen it used as maintenance, operations, or productions. Whatever you want can be in there. You just need to fill it out in a way that you feel will work best for your facility. The reference entry field is not mandatory. However, it can be used to tie entries together. So if the same pump broke down last week and it broke down again this week, you can actually tie those two entries together, creating a chain of events. Next is the location field. This is used for a lot of things in eLogger. It's the backbone of the program. It can be used to control security or limit access to different options in eLogger. It can be used to prompt reminders for users, trigger notifications such as email, or create custom data entry screens. An example of a location hierarchy would be a big research facility. They've taken this research facility and they've broken it down into different buildings. The buildings are broken down into floors, and the floors are broken down into rooms. Rooms can then be further broken down into different pieces of equipment. For something like a power generator, they would break it down into their generation unit, and then put the rest of the information under the general plant. The setup doesn't have to be complex. It just needs to be complex enough so that in the future you can search for all of your activity that occurred for a specific unit, building, or room. You need to break your location hierarchy down to a level that makes sense to your plan. Now that we've selected a location, we are presented with logs. Logs are defined by you, and they can be considered categories of information. So if the date is the when, the location is the where, the logs are the what. To create a basic log, I'll select the communications log and enter something simple like there's a meeting on Friday. As you may notice, there are all kinds of formatting options as well as a spell check for every entry. Once all data has been entered, we can scroll to the bottom of the page and save. Once this is saved, we're returned to the View Logs page for eLogger. This page is a snapshot of recently entered information, and it will update as information is put into the logbook. Older entries will move down, and the most current information entered is at the top of the screen. Users can leave this page open, and it will update frequently as new data is being displayed. Once an entry is created, you can perform certain tasks on it. These tasks can be controlled by permissions for each user. The first link is the append link. It will allow users to enter a note without actually changing the entry. Next, we have the copy link. This will create a new entry with the same data as the original entry. Third is the edit link. This will allow users to make changes to the entry itself. The last is simply a URL to access the link directly. To the right of the entry is the delete link. This will put the entry into an inactive state in the database. This entry isn't actually deleted from the system. It can be restored if necessary. The middle option is the audit link. This will produce a report showing the history of changes for the life of the entry. It will show who made the changes, when those changes were made, what changes were made, as well as display the previous data and the current data. Now the final option is the report option. This will display the log entry in an easy-to-read PDF file. Now I'm going to go ahead and make a couple more entries into the logbook to show you some additional features. I'm going to go ahead and make another communications entry. This time I want to include some attachments. I have the ability to attach an unlimited number of documents, URLs, as well as pictures to any log entry. To attach a document or picture, I would click the Choose File button, locate the file on my computer, then click Add. When adding an image, the image will show up as a thumbnail on the screen, but you can click the image to display it in a full-sized image. For a link, I would simply enter in the URL for that website. I'm going to save this entry now, and I'll be back at the View Logs page. You will notice that there are some icons on this page. The system administrators have the ability to attach an icon to a log, as well as to set up colored bars at the top of each entry. I'm going to go ahead and make a couple more entries. In eLogger, you have the ability to customize your own data entry pages. These are based on the location in the log that you have chosen. So right now there are no templates for our custom data entry pages displayed. I'm just going to give you an example of something that we often see. Typically, when a new shift is started, they'll write in the logbook that today the supervisor is BJ, the foreman is Andrew, the employees working are Kevin, AJ, Jane, and Anna. Then they'll save this entry. This is okay, and we have no problem with you doing this typing into the logbook, but we really like to limit how much typing the user needs to do. The way we do it is something we call templates. If I pick the on-shift log, you will notice that my screen changes. Down below, I have some drop-down fields and what is called a multi-select field. Here I can pick my supervisor, the foreman, as well as any employees who are working, and save the entry. All of this information is displayed very neatly as compared to manually entering the data into the entry below. Your user did not have to type. Their information is consistent, it's spelled correctly, it's not abbreviated, it's just exactly the way you want it in your system. The next entry I'm going to make is a maintenance entry. We're going to say something like the pump broke. As I scroll down the page, you will see my data entry screen, and you'll notice some fields are blue and some are black. Blue fields are called mandatory fields. When you build these data entry screens, you can specify whether they are mandatory or not. If I click Save without completing a mandatory field, you'll notice that it'll come back with an error. So I'm going to say yes, a work order was created. I'm going to enter in the work order number, indicate that it was not completed, and check yes that I want to email maintenance. For the second half of this template, I have what we call a multi-row grid. I add a row and enter in the data. You may notice that the temperature field turns yellow with an exclamation point. This is called a soft error. You'll get a visual notification like this if a value entered falls outside of the specified range configured by your system administrators. I'm going to go ahead and save this entry now. Now that we're back at the View Logs page, you should see the red and brown bar at the top of the maintenance entry I just created. These are types of notifications we have set up for these logs. If an entry is marked as not complete, you are able to perform a number of notifications, such as an alert like the ones we have here, or an email notification. You can also send a notification in the status box on the top right of your screen. These various notification rules can be something like every time a maintenance entry is created, or if the email maintenance field says yes, then send an email to my maintenance coordinator. Now, if the maintenance coordinator is sitting at their desk and they're on the network, they can open up the email, they can click on the link, and it'll bring them directly to this entry. However, if they're sitting at home eating dinner and they get an email on their smart device, They can open up the email, but since they're not connected to the network, they can't actually go out and look at that entry directly. To remedy this, you can also attach a PDF report that will look something like this. All of the information contained in that log entry will be on this PDF, and it will be automatically attached to the email. I'm not going to make any more entries, but I do want to show you a couple of different forms that we've seen companies build. Here is one called hourly data reading. It is a bunch of fields for the user to type numbers in. One of the numeric fields is a calculated field, which will perform mathematical calculations based on other numeric fields. Here is another form called plant status. Different types of field are being used: drop-downs, multi-selects, radio buttons, as well as text fields. On certain types of fields, you can perform trending. You can show the history of a field's values that have been entered into the system, or you can even show them graphically. You can set up templates to capture data in a format that your business needs to function. Another one of the functions of eLogger is called an EDQ. What that means is that eLogger can connect to other systems to gather information and pull it back into eLogger for you. The example I'm about to show you was from a big oil refinery, and their manual process used to be that they had a sheet of paper and it had a bunch of blanks on it. At the end of the day, they would go out, fill in all this information, they would look it up in different computer systems, and then write it onto this report. And then they would go to their copy machine, scan, and then email it off to different department managers. Now that they have eLogger, they've created these as templates. First, they enter some data into the multi-row grid. The next set of data they're looking for is actually coming from their data historian Pi. Instead of going out and looking this information up in Pi and then punching it into eLogger, all I have to do is click on the Get Data link, and it populates this information for them. Then they will put some information into the Safety Incidents section. Just like with Pi data levels above, they would click the Get Data button to populate the Pi data crude unit section. Another method of populating the EDQ templates all at the same time is to click the Get All Data button at the bottom of the screen. Now that I've saved this entry, it should be noted that this log is set up to automatically email this report to the managers. This is an example of what the report would look like. Now that you know how to put data into eLogger, I want to show you how you can get some of that information back from eLogger. Now I'm back at the View Logs page, and I've been telling you that this is a snapshot of the last day's worth of data. The screen can be filtered by date, log, and location. If I wanted to look at an entire year's worth of data, I can come here and change the date, or I can use the calendar pickers to change the date range. Once I've changed my dates and click Go, you'll notice that the number of logs has increased. Now I can go down and scroll through all of these entries looking for the one I'm interested in. But I'd like to narrow down this result set. So I click on the Show Additional Parameters, and I can say just show me the on-shift entries, and select the electricity generator location, and then hit Go. Now notice that I have narrowed down the number of entries, and you can see they are all for the on-shift log. We can also filter by date, log, and location. That is one method of searching that is available. The second method is called a quick search, and that is in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. I can type a word in here such as BJ, and it will go out and search every log entry in the database and bring back all of the records that have the word BJ in a searchable field. You don't want to use this for words that show up frequently. You may also use this to look up a specific log entry by the ID. The third method of searching is the Search Logs tab. It allows you to build custom searches as well as custom output views. So I have time spans where I can enter in the date and time, or use the date-time pickers to update it. I'm just going to say, show me everything in the last 30 days. You'll notice how it will adjust my start and end date for me automatically. I can then search by log, shift, crew, or the name of the person who created the entry, as well as the completion status. There are a lot of ways to search on this screen. So I'm going to search for some more on-shift log entries, and I want to see the ones created by BJ Lindgren. I only want to look at my electricity generator location, and I also want to see the results for the ones where Andrew was the foreman. Now I would click the Get Entries button to get my results set back. The results will be the log entries that match my criteria. If you perform the same type of search frequently, you can create a saved search. The Save Search feature allows you to create a saved search and then save it. So I'm going to go ahead and create my last search again and give it a name. You can create a tab on the main View Logs page, have it listed on the Save Searches tab, or you can make it your default landing page. These saved searches are personal searches. They're just mine. No one else gets to see them unless I share them. To run that search, I would simply click on the tab and the search would be run for me. I can choose this to be my View Logs page as well. Saved searches may also be created per user group. You may also want to format the output of the saved search, and you can do this by clicking on the Yes with Custom Results option from the Show on View Logs page section. You can select which fields you want to see from the checkboxes below. You may also change report orientation to portrait or landscape. You can choose which field to have it sort on. I'll go ahead and create a quick custom results search below. We're able to perform a few functions on a group of entries. You will use either the default View Log settings or a specified save search. I click the blue arrow and I'm able to perform the tasks on all of the entries that are checked. There are 5 types of reports for grouped entries, as well as the feature to export all of your data to Excel to perform additional trending or calculations. You can also assign acknowledgers for the checked entries if you would like. Acknowledgers are another assigned privilege available for a single entry or a group of entries. You can specify that you want others to read a specific entry, and eLogger will keep track of who read it, who has not read it, as well as create an electronic record of who has acknowledged reading these items. It can send out notifications to people saying, hey, there's an entry in eLogger that you need to read, and it keeps track of whether or not they have read it. There's an additional add-on feature available for eLogger called eLogger Anywhere. This is a fully offline version of eLogger, allowing you to create entries into eLogger without having a network connection. This is especially helpful if your users are entering data in spots where there's no Wi-Fi connection. Multiple entries can be made and synced up with eLogger when they're back in range and able to connect. This concludes our demonstration of eLogger. For more information on this presentation, you can visit our website at www.elogger.com or email info@elogger.com for an in-depth one-on-one demonstration.